Alright, hey guys, how's it going? My name is Cam, and I had mentioned that I was going to start a new series on my channel called My Thoughts On, which is what I'm doing right now. The only reason that I'm doing it here, there are two reasons that I'm doing it in the car. For one, I'm trying to get some variety in my surroundings so that you can tell like what kind of video that I'm doing. And two, I spend a lot of time in the car driving because I work very far away. Like, I say very far away, it's like 30 minutes. But I'm either in the car going to class, going to work, going back home, going to church. I mean, I'm in the car a whole lot, so I decided, well, I'll give my thoughts on the drive. I mean, I got 30 minutes, I can make a decently lengthy video on what I'm going to be talking about. So, the My Thoughts On trilogy, the My Thoughts On series is going to take place in my car. So, for this first one, we're going to be talking about Stranger Things, because I had been wanting to talk about the show ever since I attempted to get a reaction series out there, but since I couldn't do it due to copyright, I had to think of another way to do it, and this is what I ended up coming up with, which is it's basically a review, but it's my personal thoughts, my unscripted thoughts on the show. But before I can talk about season 3, I want to go in and talk about the first couple of seasons. When the series came out on Netflix for the first time, I saw a bunch of ads for it, and I was just like, okay, we got a new show. Sure, it looks okay, but I don't think it's something I'm going to spend my time on. And as months went by, I heard lots of reviews and lots of people talking about it, and eventually my family had said that they were going to watch it, so I was like, I'll give it a watch and see how it is. And as soon as I started watching it, I binged the entire first season. I absolutely loved it. I didn't expect to love it, but it caught me off guard, and it is now up there with one of my favorite shows out there. I loved the characters, I loved the story that it told, I loved the monsters and the scares. Like, I don't scare very easily, but there were some pretty creepy moments in the show. And it even got a little bit of emotion out of me at the end, so if a show can do that, then they've hooked me. But yeah, I absolutely loved the first season. The second season came out, I was super hyped for it, and it did not disappoint me. I binged the entire second season in a couple of days. I loved it about as much as I did as the first season. I didn't have a problem with the kind of spin-off episode with 11 and the whole criminal group arc that she had. I honestly enjoyed it. It was interesting. It wasn't nearly as exciting as what was going on at the time, but I still enjoyed it, and it didn't bug me. It didn't ruin the pacing, as some people talked about. So that was all good. And the introduction of Billy and Max. Billy was a new character that I could hate, and Max was a little annoying at first, but I grew to like her a little bit more. I was super frustrated whenever they were that moment when they were in the school, and Elle was this close to seeing Mike again, but she saw him with Max. I was like, no, he's right there, just meet. Come on. I didn't want to wait until the last episode of the season before they could finally meet up again, because they were the cutest, and I wanted them to be happy. And the introduction of the Mind Flayer was, I don't know, I mean, when it showed up, I was like, where were you in the first season? Like, why are we just now getting introduced to this thing? but it infecting Will, body snatcher style, it was, I don't really know how to explain it. I mean, it was terrible for that kid, but props to that actor for all the range of emotions and just his acting in general that season. I mean, I don't think I could ever act like that. It was insane. And something that I noticed after watching the season a couple times, the more infected that Will gets, his eyes actually change colors. I think his eyes are like green or something. And after he gets infected, if you pay attention to his eyes, they slowly go brown. I think. I haven't watched it ever since, but I did notice that there was something different about his eyes after he got infected, which was kind of the tell. And then also the introduction of the Demodogs, basically smaller Demogorgons, but they're faster and invincible apparently, because bullets don't do anything to those things. And it also introduced Bob, my favorite character of the season, because it's Samwise Gamgee. I mean, how could I not love that guy? Sean Astin did a phenomenal job in the season, and I was super sad when he died. Yeah, every season has at least one moment that either makes my eyes water up or shed a tear. The first season was when Elle disappeared. And then the second season was when Bob died. But the second season had two moments that really got me, which was the end of the series when they had the snowball dance, and I was so giddy whenever I saw them. Like, it's the snowball dance, because that as soon as Mike brought that up to Elle, I was like, they better get that snowball dance. They better get it, and they did, and I was super happy. I got emotional about it, and then this season ended with that cliffhanger. I'm like, oh, but the Mind Flayer is still there. And then that brings us to season 3. When I saw season 3, it was an emotional roller coaster, because right off the bat, I mean, you got Mike and Elle together, and they're obviously doing couple stuff, which I've been on both sides of Mike and Elle being in a relationship and wanting to spend time together away from everybody, and also being the friends amongst the friends that have a friend that's in a relationship and they're always with them and not hanging out. So I understood both sides, but then Hopper had to go and mess it up. I was not happy about that, but Mike was being a little brat, so it happened. I wasn't too happy, but I figured that something like that was going to happen. Let's see what else. Oh, one thing that I did not expect in season 3 was me to give any care about Billy. But Billy is the new host for the Mind Flayer, because I don't know how I didn't think of this, but that part of the Mind Flayer that was in Will never went back to the Upside Down when Elle closed the gate, because it happened simultaneously. I never thought of that, and when it was revealed, I'm like, oh, hey, this one's still here. I'm like, well, I'm an idiot. How did I not know that? It's like making rats explode, which the CGI in season 3 is some of the best CGI that I've seen since Thanos was revealed. Because it was the most disgusting thing when those rats blew up and their goo was sliding all around and forming this giant grotesque monster. Like, it looked gross, but in the coolest way. And every single time that it happened, I was always like, that's gross. But yeah, Billy gets infected, which then leads to his whole backstory later on, when Elle is trying to figure out where all these people are getting taken, where they're disappearing to, and stuff like that, which led to what I think was my favorite scene of the entire series, when Elle is confronted by the Mind Flayer, who's infected Billy, and they have that whole conversation with the trailer music playing in the background. I got so many chills from that scene, and it was, oh man, it was so good. It was so good. Hopper and Joyce was probably the one thing about the show that I was kind of iffy about, because Hopper was either angry and yelling all the time, or fighting with Joyce after he got stood up. And it got annoying for a little while, but eventually, whenever that one PI, I forgot his name, does the same thing with Hopper and Joyce that he did to Will and what was her name? I forgot her name. Nancy. It's Nancy. I remembered. He did the same thing to them. And it was at that point when I'm like, so that's why they're fighting all the time, so we could have this really funny joke. It was worth it. I like that. And Dustin and Steve have their own little bromance side plot with Rebecca, I think was her name, and a new character whose name I have forgotten. Probably should have researched before I decided to make this video. But they have the whole subplot when they're down in the Russian base. They're sneaking around trying to avoid everybody, which I thought was kind of stupid, because these are highly trained Russian soldiers, and they didn't notice this group of very they're very colorfully dressed people sneaking around where they're all wearing the same uniform. But Steve won a fight, so that was cool. And then he immediately gets the crap beat out of him, which has to happen every season apparently. Trying to think what else can I talk about. Mike and Elle kind of getting back together throughout the season was kind of cute. The whole moment with him giving her M&Ms, like, does your race eat M&Ms or something, or your species eat M&Ms? I thought that was cute. And I guess that leads to the end of the season, which was the saddest freaking thing. I mean, I never expected to feel bad for Billy at all, but after getting his backstory and him freaking pulling a Captain America and stopping the Mind Flayer from killing Elle was all he needed to do for redemption. And then I was immediately sad when he died. And then down in the basement, Hopper and the other guys are trying to blow up their machine. And he has his fight with the Terminator, which is what everybody's been calling him, which I thought was awesome. But I do want to talk about this one thing before I finish up. Me talking about the finale. The 80s references and how much they lean on them. I loved it. I didn't have a problem with how 80s they got with the Russians being the bad guys and this one Russian being basically the Terminator. Like, they went all in for it, and I thought it worked very well. Especially when Dustin and Susie sing the Never-Ending Story. That was hilarious. But yeah, I loved all the references and how far they went into it. And then with the end, Hopper kills the Terminator, but in doing so, he kind of screws himself over whenever the machine starts going haywire and it's stopping him from escaping, and he dies, which he doesn't, obviously. But that's the moment when I started to cry because I didn't want Hopper to die. I Actually, no, I started to cry whenever Billy died because, like I said, I didn't think I'd feel any emotion for him, but I welled up whenever he died. And Max is there watching it all happen, which is, of course, terrible. Then Hopper dies. And then just the entire epilogue of the show, I couldn't stop crying. Because they just went further and further into the feels, and it kept getting me. Like, with the buyers moving out, that was getting me super emotional. And then Elle telling Mike that she loves him after he said it earlier in the series, which I, like most people, went, what? And then Hopper's letter, which I think got me to cry the most, because any single time, and I don't know what it is with epilogues and, like, a character talking over, like, a montage or something like that, or just talking over stuff that's happening, but it always gets to me every single time. Like, it happened in Return of the King, but, I mean, that's a whole different situation right there. And it just, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop crying, and I can admit to that because I'm not scared. But once it was all over, they had their stinger at the end, talking about the American, which I initially thought was Hopper, but then I remembered that Papa, whatever his name was, the old guy that had Elle in the first season, I forgot that he's actually still alive, and he's American, so I mean, it could be him. I'm still holding out hopes that it's Hopper, because we didn't see him die, and there was a ladder right behind him going towards the portal, so he could be in the Upside Down. I don't know, but I don't think he's dead. But who knows who the American is that they have, and it's revealed that they have a Demogorgon over on their end, a full-grown Demogorgon, and it's definitely going to cause problems. But I think Season 3 is my favorite season, and I can't wait for Season 4, whenever they decide to make it. I'm sorry, it's very loud right now. That's traffic for you. But I absolutely loved Season 3, and Stranger Things is still one of my favorite series of all time, and I cannot wait to keep watching it. Hopefully next season I can try and get a reaction out, but if I can't, I'll just do this again. Stay tuned for more thoughts on stuff that I have, because I definitely have some thoughts on things that people don't agree with, and I can't wait to talk about that. Feel free to go down in the comments and tell me why you like or dislike whatever I'm talking about. I always enjoy having a conversation with people in the comments. As weird as it can get, it's still pretty funny, and it's always fun talking with other people. And yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this. Don't really have an outro for this. Gotta pay attention to the road, so I'll probably decide to cut it right now.